Hello.
You're live.
Good morning, Power Talk viewers. So happy to be with you today. Sorry we're running a little bit late. We had a couple of technical difficulties, but that's okay. We got them resolved. And I've got a really interesting show on tap for you today. My guest today is Dr. Kathy Fori. She is a clinical psychologist, but and I'm going to let her tell her story, but anyway, she's created a machine called Trinfinity8. And I've had one of these machines for, goodness gracious, I don't know, 6 years, 7 years now, Kathy? I'm not sure how long. It has helped me to rejuvenate, the list goes on, but for those of you who are watching the show, I don't know that most of y'all realize this, but I'm almost 70, and I really credit the Trinfinity for helping me to get younger and happier and fitter and more connected and, all that great stuff. So Kathy's website is Trinfinity8. That's TRINFINITY8.com. So welcome, Kathy.
Hey, thank you, Jean.
And so for those of you who are watching the show, for those of you who are watching the show either live or off of the website, it doesn't really matter because there's no such thing as time. But I'm running a protocol, it's actually a group of protocols on the Trinfinity called Wellness Tuneup. And it's going to end up with making you just feel good. But it's also going to tweak stuff, to help you to help your body to heal itself and help you to have higher frequency. So my Trinfinity, and let's see if I can get this. There's my Trinfinity. It runs on a PC. It's software that runs on a PC, and there's hardware associated with it. And the business end of the deal are crystal wands that you hold in your hands. But when I'm running a remote protocol, I just write the client's name 3 times on a piece of paper, and I usually put a heart around it too, and intentions. And then I set the wands on top of the paper, and then I put the headphones, as they're playing solfeggio tones, on top of that. And people have amazing results. My clients are all over the world, and you are now one of them as well because you're receiving the frequencies because of intention. So Kathy, how did all of this come about? Tell us your story.
Do we actually have time?
Sure, go for it.
Well, a lot of my story is in my book, Fractals of God, Psychologist, Near-Death Experience, and Journeys into the Mystical. But my journey really started back in 2003. I was practicing as a clinical psychologist, and I had a very unusual experience of feeling all this energy come out of my body. And when it did, I just felt like something was gone, as if something had been removed. And I didn't know it then that all my old guides had left and were preparing me for this new journey. And as I went home to think about what this meant, I'm giving you the abbreviated version, of course, I all of a sudden saw this swirling vortex in my head. The next minute I was sucked into this vortex tunnel, and I could see light at the end of the tunnel. And of course, it occurred to me very quickly, this looks like the light at the end of the tunnel for people who have had near-death experiences. And of course, I thought, did I just die? I wasn't sick. What was the matter? But, since there was nothing I could do about if I was indeed dead,
yeah,
I just felt like, let's go along for the ride. And but before I could go into the light, I was stopped, and I hovered there for a long period of time. And I remember thinking, this is boring, but all this energy poured into me. And then I was spun back around, sent back to the tunnel as fast as could be. And voices in my head were saying, breathe, Kathy, breathe. And my whole left side of my body was paralyzed, and I was alone, and they were trying to breathe life back into my physical form. And this took a while, but I listened to the voices. They said, relax, and they just reconnected my body, all the parts to it, so I could feel again. But I was still felt like, maybe there's something wrong with my heart here. And but they told me I didn't need to see a cardiologist. Well, within 24 hours after that happening, I was obsessed with quantum physics. I was going on the computer, researching all these thoughts that were coming through my mind, these downloads and so forth. And that began the beginning of this quest to I learned came back to develop a software-based program to help people shift into a different, higher energy state where then their bodies could take off and do the healing themselves. So it became like a 5-year process. Like I said, that's the really short version, because I know we're stretched for time. But it was a journey for me too, because I thought, I didn't know if this was going to help anybody or if I was being sent on a fool's mission. And I debuted it at an energy psychology conference. It was a subtle energy conference, excuse me. And I had all these subtle energy workers from all over the world flocking to it and saying, oh my God, this is pretty incredible, because my guides, I found out that all these guidance that I was working with were 8th dimensional beings. And basically I was told, you've kind of done this work before, and you come back at certain periods of time during the evolutionary process to help as best you can. Believe me, I'm nothing important in the scheme of things. It's just the device that is really the most important factor. And that we were to help people during this time of, we've all heard the word ascension, and that many people would be having trouble navigating this higher energy. And so this device would help them. So these subtle energy workers were seeing energy around people's body in ways that they had never seen before. People were channeling long lost relatives, on this device, their own guides. And so it was like, I sat back and thought, holy cow, what is this? What did I bring forth? But I was seeing that it was making such a big difference in people's lives that I thought, okay, I think you need to stick with this and see how far this goes. And it has many layers of it have made themselves known over the last since 2009, when I first unveiled Trinfinity8.
Oh yeah, and there's kind of scientific backup to this. I know for me, I've got a client here in Tallahassee who's got a huge long list of physical ailments. I mean, he's still walking around, and that's kind of amazing. And so he's using the Trinfinity once a week, and because he's very sensitive, and so we'll put him into healing crisis. But his naturopathic doctor comes with him when he comes to use the Trinfinity. And before they come, his doctor has some sort of device where he can test his relative vital health, and the measurement that he uses is called phase angle, and I don't know what that is, but they do. So and so before his first session with the Trinfinity, his phase angle was very low, and it is now almost up to normal.
Wow, that's great.
So yeah, so it's doing something. We don't know exactly what it's doing, but it's doing something, and it's something positive.
That's it. It didn't come with an instruction manual. At least my version didn't come.
Right, exactly.
But it incorporates sacred geometry, mathematical algorithms. I mean, my guys are basically saying that everything in the universe has a mathematical signature to it. So instead of dealing with just frequency related, just go straight to talking to the DNA in a cellular language it understands, which is math, which really is the universal language. Right. And so math being my worst subject in school, I thought, oh no, what have I gotten myself into? I know nothing about math. And so they pointed me in the right direction. And most of all of the algorithms that came forward that are in Trinfinity8 took over a year's time of just kind of channeling that information down through these higher beings of what they wanted in over, there's like 72 different programs, what should be in each one. And it's all very, very different. And so, and the crystals, I never thought that anything could be transmitted from a computer through pure quartz crystal rods to you. I mean, it's, how Atlantean,
Right, yeah, exactly.
In fact, I have had people who have been on the device, at different maybe exhibits or healthcare shows or something like that. And they've come forward and they go, we remember this technology. It's coming in a different package form than we remembered it, but we didn't think we'd see it for several more lifetimes.
Yeah, No, I don't doubt that.
So,
And you actually even have a version that can run on an iPhone, right?
Yep.
It's an app.
Yep.
Yeah. Because the cover of this thing's just a crystal.
yes, and everything in our computer our computers and so forth all use crystal components. So, we had to find a way to kind of give a little bit of something to people who couldn't afford, maybe a device of their own, but could get, afford a $3.99 app. And
Sure.
then we also try to steer people to practitioners around the country to get remote sessions or in-person sessions or so forth. And, even when we started, I did not realize that this Trinfinity8 had the capability to do remote.
Yeah, we had this conversation early on, as I remember, because I was working with clients all over the world with InnerSpeak, and I thought, if it works for that, it's got to work on the Trinfinity. And sure enough, yeah.
Well, I discovered that as I allude in my book that, I had a sick aunt in Chicago, and I did a program for her. All I did was ask her permission. That's the key thing. You have to always ask the person's permission. And she thought, she didn't understand any of this stuff. She thought, oh, I was just praying for her or something, So she gave me permission. And it was an hour program. It was way too much for an 80-some-year-old woman. But I didn't know that back then. I was still experimenting.
Oh, yeah.
And it just wiped her out energy-wise that she had to fall asleep. But the next day she woke up, it was a post-surgery infection, and it was totally gone. She went to her doctor and everything was like unbelievable, and she had all this energy. So I kind of learned, trial and error, that, this stuff can be very powerful even though you may not be feeling it.
Right.
And it doesn't mean you have to, because somebody's in, outer Mongolia, that it has to be a longer session to reach them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you told me in the very beginning, you said, Jean, less is better. And I did not believe you. I opened the box up and there's like an hour-long program for youthing yourself. And I put myself on that program. As soon as I had it installed on my computer, the next day, I could hardly get out of bed. And I had like morning sickness. Like if I lifted my head up off the pillow, I thought, oh no. And I knew immediately what I'd done. It's like, okay, I didn't pay attention. I didn't listen to what she said. And here I am.
Too much energy can make you feel like a Mack truck just hit you.
Exactly.
So,
and I've done that to myself several times because, if you've got the machine and you have the choices and you can say, oh, wait, maybe I'll do this one too. And then, oh, how about, I think I want to do that one too. That can't hurt. Right.
Well, I can do it now. I can play, but I'm so used to it. If in circumstances where I may have had in the past like a back injury or something like that, maybe not doing squats at the gym the correct way or something, and I would run myself remotely for a number of hours on just back injuries and related stuff. Right. And by the end of the workday, I was feeling no pain. I was totally back aligned and so forth like that. But, that's all, I can do that now, but most people can't, right. Unless they're really used to, working with energy. But, so.
And I find it better for me, if I'm going to do a longer program, it's better for me to do it remotely and not sit in front of the computer. So I do that for myself as well. So what can people, I don't want to say expect, because I'm all about not being attached to outcomes. What are some of the things that Trinfinity has the potential to do for people?
Well, I think the one that really blew me away was it brought a child out of a coma. And that came from our Australian distributor. She was following this case, this child, and brain injury, and they did not expect the child, even the doctors did not expect the child to ever come out of it. And they went to work on it, and she said, the doctors thought it was a miracle. And so I thought, that is pretty incredible. But I usually tell people, best to go in with no expectations.
Exactly.
Because that's when, the universe and God surprises you. And, so I just say, you may feel, the least amount you may feel is very relaxed, de-stressed. And the most that could happen is a total shift with your body, your own energy, where the healing process just takes off, and it's almost like a miracle. Yeah. But, you know, it's everybody's at a different time, the pacing, their time, you know, so you can't always judge that, oh, yeah. I always, if somebody comes in and tells me, oh, this is my last resort, you know, because I'm dying of this, I say, you know, this is not probably the best way to go, okay? Because, you know, there's just too much. It doesn't take away a person's karma. It doesn't take away their time to die. Right. You know? And we all have our time. Yeah. It may slow it down so you have more learning available time to, you know, available to yourself. But I'm always a little leery about those people who think it's going to, you know, be the ultimate fix. You know, remember, you are the healer.
Exactly.
This doesn't facilitate that.
Yeah, you know, and all of the programs, these 72 programs, they're presented as aesthetic changes primarily, like a facelift, like eyes, like more. I don't need more hair, but strong fingernails, things like that. But they are so much more than that. And I learned this early on because it would be every time I was sitting in front of the computer, because you can see which programs are running at that point. And there's one called Stimulate Collagen and Elastin. And whenever I am at the Trinfinity and that program starts, I feel my crown center open wide and I get downloads. And I don't know what I'm getting right then. It's, you know, it's usually anywhere between 2 to 10 hours later that I have this aha. Oh, that's what happened. That's what came in. So it's almost tempting for me to just sit on the computer and do the Stimulate Collagen and Elastin program just so I can receive messages from my guides.
Well, sometimes I have to look back and see what did they actually program on some of these things, because, you know, it's sort of like people report that happening and I look back and go, oh, they gave me that code for this, and this is probably what's causing that. So okay. It's you have to go back and look at the recipe, you might say.
Sure, yeah.
But in general, you know, some of the things that look cosmetic in nature in Trinfinity8 are just energetically addressing that area. So you know, I always like to use that we have one psychologist, a psychiatrist actually, that uses the lips program, not to make better looking, less lines around lips, but to help her clients speak up and assert themselves. And she stumbled on that quite by accident, that all of a sudden they were getting much more assertive and expressing their needs. And we thought, you know, so let's look at those areas of how to be addressed figuratively as well as literally, you know?
Exactly. In fact, I've had that happen with a client in Louisiana who was working on her face, and now she really is stepping into her power, stepping out there, expressing her truth to the world, and her truth is getting larger and larger and larger the more she does the Trinfinity, and she on average does one a week. You know,
isn't that exciting?
It really is.
Trinfinity8, not just there's going to be taken to a different level in 2018. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
And it's the next level that's been delayed, I'd say, for 5 years due to circumstances. But, you know, 2018 will be the next step up.
Fantastic. You know, because it's the way it is now is just amazing. Yeah. I mean, I use the program, there's a program called Eyes, which a lot of people will use to help their vision or to reduce little wrinkles and things like that. Well, when my eye was injured, I expedited, I can't, lost for words. I expedited the healing and the ability to return back to as normal as can be expected. They were supposed to remove my left eye on January the 24th. Ooh. On January 23rd at approximately 4:00 in the afternoon, I began to see light in that eye. And the week before, I had been at the doctor's office for the pre-op, and I couldn't see anything. I mean, they tested me with these blinding lights. Do you see this? No. And so I had no way of communicating to the doctor until I'm in the operating room in pre-op. I've already got the IV started. They put a big green X above the eye that is to be removed. And he comes in to say, hi, how are you? And we're getting ready to roll you back. And I said, what? Wait a minute. You need to know that I can now see light. And he said, well, I don't have any instruments. And he pulls out his iPhone and he turns on the flashlight and he goes, can you see that? And I was like, yeah. And then, can you see that? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, oh my God, this is a game changer. So, yeah. So they still had to do surgery because they had to replace my tear ducts, repair my tear ducts, but they didn't remove my eye. And I can still now to this day see distinguish light and dark. Wow. So, wow. And that's something that I credit the Trinfinity8 for because, I never gave up. I just kept running it, and let it do what it does.
Well, you're strong-willed, just as when I used to have therapy clients, if they said nothing works, then I said, well, okay, then probably nothing will work.
Right, exactly.
You have to have the intent and willpower to want that change. Otherwise, it'll just be beyond your grasp.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And, I don't want to say that this accident happened to me so that I could be a living testimony, but I am now, because if I don't tell people what I've gone through in the last year, most of the time they don't know.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, it's a huge thing for me, and I know that in addition to helping me to be younger, in every way, that the healing of the eye thing was a big piece of it too. So thank you.
Wow. Well, I'm just the conduit, as I say.
Yeah, I know. That's the same with me with the InnerSpeak. I was just the conduit to bring it in. And my guides told me for the same reason, to help people get through this ascension time.
Yeah. And right now, as we all are experiencing, it's on warp speed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So people's bodies are definitely feeling it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So viewers, Kathy Fori, her website is Trinfinity8. That's TRINFINITY and the number 8.com. And on her website, not only can you find out more about the Trinfinity, you can find a practitioner somewhere near you. She's got a big map of the United States. And if you're in Florida or South Georgia, I'm your girl, North Florida or South Georgia, because I'm in Tallahassee. And then also her book, Fractals of God, is available. She has a line of essential oils that are quite powerful. And you can I guess you have to go to the App Store to get your app.
Yeah. So you can get it for Android phones or iPhones. But
okay.
You can't get it through our website. You have to go through the App Store or the Google Wallet store or whatever it is. Yeah.
Right. Cool. So thank you so much, Kathy. Number one, for listening and paying attention, and then bringing in something amazing that's helping so many of us. And two, for taking the time today to join and share your story and share your product with my viewers.
Thank you, Jean. Have a great day, and to all of you out there too, happy healing.
Yeah, absolutely. And viewers, if you want to contact me and tell me how you're feeling after your wellness tune-up, my email address is jean@jeanadrienne.com, and I would love to hear. And if you would like to just experience it more of on a one-on-one remotely, I'll give that away for free to anybody who would want to ask for that. So pop me a note, jean@jeanadrienne.com. And until next time, remember, people who take responsibility for their lives create the reality they desire. Ciao, y'all.